Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ryan Elly Show. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Ellie.
Woo! I feel like today, like this week, since we last recorded, since we've been back from Dubai, it's just been fucking mental.
Oh, is it?
And we could probably just do a let's just catch up with Ryan and Ellie show, because I've sort of lost my wife. She's like triathlete, and now I'm like a triathlon husband who's just running around while she's planning her next training session. I'm there like a blue ass fly, trying to look after the kids, sort the food out, sort the dinners out.
Hold on. Let's just clarify. I am existing at home still.
Yeah, no, I might have over exaggerated that a little bit, but should we update everyone about your training?
Yeah, there's been a couple of firsts.
Yeah.
First sea swim. How did it go?
It was all right. If you've seen Ellie's content, I've got some good content on the paddleboard. So that's the only positive for me.
He's got a good role in this whole triathlon husband. He's my videographer. You thought that you're pretty good at it.
Yeah, so we went out, me and Efa May went on the paddleboard. So it's actually quite nice, because it's like one of these, and it's probably a good thing we could talk about with, if you've got busy family life, is involving the kids. And one thing that I would say, both the kids have really shown an interest in what you're doing, haven't they? Yeah. It's like, you know, if you've seen the video we've done before where Neve wanted to go out for a run, Efa May's very much like wants to know what Ellie's doing with her swimming and watching triathlon. It.
She did it as well at the weekend.
Yeah, so we went out on the paddleboard, me and Efa May on the paddleboard alongside Ellie. Ellie has had this fear. Despite being like able, she's done like a relay around Jersey. She's an international medalist swimmer. She cringes when I tell people that. She's a very, very talented swimmer, but had this nervousness, didn't you?
Well, I don't know if it's like, maybe perhaps it's like my age and like the
age
era that I was born in. Jaws was such like a big thing. You know, we're talking like the 80s. And why are you laughing at me?
Because I'm younger than you.
Anyway,
I am.
So I was like made to watch Jaws from like, I remember 5 years old watching it, and it petrified me that I had like such vivid dreams. And I swear to God, like I could feel myself getting bitten by a shark. In fact, like I've always thought to myself, the day I'm dying, I'm going to get bitten by a shark. I've just always just had this like scary thought.
And I suppose even when we go away, we're not sea
won't
people,
go in the sea.
none of us.
I refuse to go in the sea. I will like on the news if there's shark attacks. You ain't seen me there. So I'm swimming and I just freak.
Yeah, you did.
And mine's like really trying hard.
Are you swimming or what?
Not to get annoyed at me. And I'm like, not only is it like it's cold, it's 15 degrees. To me, that's cold. Yes, I'm in a wetsuit. I haven't been in the sea in like 15 years. And then I have to like swim. It's dark, it's deep, I'm on my own.
We weren't on your own now.
Yeah, but you were there, but getting annoyed with me.
My paddle if any sharks came. So there's a lesson there though as well, I guess, is like how much better did you feel once you'd done it?
Yeah, I did it, and actually I was frustrated for myself for kind of being scared.
And I think the lesson with it can be is, you know, we talk to this with clients, you know, we go from fear to confidence in everything we do. Like, you know, if we allow that initial fear to stop us, we're never going to move forward. I think, you know, the same can be for somebody, you know, if you're watching this and you're afraid to go join a gym. You know, it is scary. When you've not done something before, it's naturally scary. And if you're building it up a lot in your mind, it probably shows it's important to you as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And we've always said that to Efa May. Like, you know, when you have like an emotion, and if you're annoyed at yourself or you're worried about something, or you have that initial like worry or fear to do something, it means like, how I perceive it as, it means that you care for the reasons behind why you want to get it done. So that's such a good thing, is to have that emotional connection with what you want to do. It's just not good if it prevents you from taking those steps forward of doing something. And it's like, you know, being a beginner is not a bad thing. Like, I definitely feel as if like
the bike.
Yes. It's very like, this triathlon training is very humbling for me, because I'm back being a complete novice and a beginner, where I'm doing things that I've never done before. And yeah, I'll be completely honest, I'm out of my comfort zone. There's moments where I think to myself, do you know what, I'm just not going to do it because like this is too uncomfortable. And I feel as if like relatable to someone who has never done a workout before, or hasn't been to a gym before. I get it. We do. We always say, and it's not a bad thing to be a beginner, because I think everyone starts off as a beginner somewhere with something in their life.
In some ways, it's good to be a beginner because you don't have bad habits. It's completely new, and embrace it as you're going to learn something new. So you look at like with Ellie doing this, all the different things that you've learned new now, like even different things like Ellie's been a PT for 10 years, like different things about different training zones, you know, learning things about how to perform better for different disciplines. So I think there's so many opportunities to learn when you're a beginner, whereas actually like we find when we coach people, complete beginners are, I don't want to say they're more fun to coach, but they're actually often will get better results because we're more open-minded, they listen better, you're more adaptive, whereas somebody who is more advanced often has preconceived beliefs that what they're doing worked or was right, or what they've tried before worked. And we always have this conversation is actually sometimes you need to forget what you know and start again, or rebuild from a beginner level, because then you're taking on new knowledge and you're probably seeing different aspects of it.
And I think as well, like when you're in the beginner stage as well, it's like there's that worry about, what if I do it wrong? Like what does it matter if you do it wrong? Today I had my first fall on the bike. I mean, thankfully no one was around, but you know, I've got a bibby on my leg. Ryan hasn't given me any sympathy, just FYI. No one's given me any sympathy because I've got a sore knee. But anyway, but you know, it doesn't matter if you don't get it first time, second time, third time, fifth time. It doesn't matter if you don't do it right. You know, it's just about continually not giving up on yourself.
Yeah, it's like when I came in, Ellie was looking for sympathy because I'd just been getting food from Our Fresh before we recorded this. And he's like, you're not giving me sympathy. And I was like, it's not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get back up. Yeah, so another thing was what's happened this week was Efa May's first triathlon as well. And that is an interesting thing as well, because obviously we're trying to push her into all different sports in the right way. And Efa May is probably a bit like me. When it comes to nerves, building things up, she'd probably rather put it to the back of her head and just rock up and do it. Ellie, bless her, is the polar opposite. Ellie, like, and it's funny because I think we're seeing the same now. Like, we've got Benita, one of our coaches who works with us as well, and we're seeing very similar traits because Benita's very much the same. Like, we're going into one of the schools today to do a workout, and everything needs to be planned out. Ellie's very much the same, so she's there planning everything out for Efa May. I'm starting to get nervous. I'm not even doing it. And it's because Ellie's relaying every single part of it. You can see Efa May's getting more nervous. I'm just being quiet because I respect how Ellie deals with nerves differently to the way that I do and Efa May. And Efa May looking more laid back probably frustrates you or flusters you more, doesn't it?
And I like, you probably listening, you know, maybe like you can relate to for myself or Ryan in terms of your personalities. For me, like, everyone always knows that I've always had this thing with confidence. Like, yes, I'm so much more confident than where I was, but I think my natural trait is sometimes I will self-doubt myself, or when I go into somewhere new, like I'm not the most confident. So in order for me to, in order for me to help myself, I kind of be as best prepared as I can be. So I want to know exactly like what is going to happen. So I was like thinking like, Efa May's really nervous about this triathlon. I'm just going to explain to her what happened. And I was going, this is going to happen, transition 1, then you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. And she just was like, can you just stop talking now? And I was like, I'm trying to help you. And then that's where you were like going, oh, nah, so yeah, I just don't need to know. You just show up and you just do kind of.
You got odd socks on? Have you got odd socks on?
Oh my God, like, I'm trying to like talk.
Have you? That is quality. 11, 12 years we've been together and I love it. Now finally wearing odd socks. Here we go.
I've got no shoes on.
That has just thrown me out completely because I think like, yeah, odd socks. I love it. I used to always wear odd socks, and funny enough, years ago I wore odd shoes. Do you remember? I got a blue one and a red one, and the same shoe.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, years ago.
That was like when we first got together.
Yeah. Yeah, sort of.
Anyway, welcome to my world, and this is Ryan, and this is what it's actually like living with Ryan on a daily basis.
Sorry, I've thrown you. So today's topic.
Oh God.
Today's topic, protein. The reason we want to cover this, it is a topic that I would say comes up time and time again when we do Q&As with clients. We get it in the DMs. People ask us like about the importance of protein. Not just from a protein shake perspective, which we'll cover as well, but how much protein should we have in, how important is it in a diet, etc., etc. I think it's a good it's a really relevant topic, and it's one that you could probably talk for hours about. But I think the most important thing for us when we talk anything nutrition related is that everybody is going to be slightly different and have slightly different approaches, and it has to be done from an emotionally healthy perspective as well. There's no point in watching any of our particular nutrition related stuff and thinking I must follow this, because if it adds stress to your life, it's not going to add to the HH, the health and happiness, and that's more important. So what I would say is, if you're somebody who's conscious of your food, and then the whole thought process of trying to get more protein up, which is typically what we're going to tell you anyway in this, is going to cause stress, we need to forget about it and just move on.
Yeah, and like how we coach now, it's all about lifestyle. It's about it being realistic, it's about being consistent, it's about being enjoyable. And if you were to look at perhaps like how our coaching has evolved, we probably have evolved our coaching when it comes to nutrition, especially protein as well, where kind of we talk about like the niceties in terms of this would be like an ideal target, but if right now at first that's a stressor, or it's not realistic, then we can gradually build on something. It's all about looking at your current lifestyle, what you can do, what you like, and then going from there. But also at the same time being like aware of like how your body feels in terms of energy levels, appetite, and cravings and things like that. I definitely think that's like one of the most important things I like to highlight, is that when we discuss that nutrition, we now talk from a lifestyle coaching perspective, rather than back in the day when we were bodybuilders. It's completely different.
And I think when the reason why protein comes up so often, I think it's probably a good idea for us to sort of get that rationale across first. Is there's a few different reasons, but protein is an essential macronutrient, so we do need it in the diet. We have essential amino acids which your body can't produce naturally, so we need to get them from foods. The best way to do that is by getting them from animal products. But when it comes to them, they're going to help you rebuild muscle tissue. They're going to help you feel fuller for longer. It does have a slightly higher thermic effect of food. So by that we mean, although like your average gym bro will tell you calories a calorie, yes it is. 2,000 calories of protein and carbs and fats is going to be the same as 2,000 calories of protein. You'll burn marginally more calories consuming that, but it's not a reason to promote it. The main reasons why from a fat loss perspective is you'll just feel a bit fuller for longer. From a training perspective, it's going to aid your recovery because muscles broken down get rebuilt up using protein.
Yeah, and I think like from an ideal world, with getting protein in your diet, we're going to say from food sources. Yes. So this could be like your meat, poultry, fish, eggs, green leafy vegetables, rather than like supplements. And that's where we're talking like, your protein powders, bars, yogurts and things like that. However, we also get real life, and we also appreciate and value convenience, and we'd be lying if we don't have convenience in our life. And we kind of get the balance of both from food sources and from supplements in our diet to kind of like help us with our protein intake.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time, if you were to look and you go online, you plug all your information into a calorie calculator, macro calculator, they're going to tell you to have anything from sort of 1.5 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you are 100 kilos, it's probably going to tell you to have anything from sort of 150 to 300 grams of protein. Okay, you do not need to have that, and that's where Ellie sort of touched on before. Is what we would tend to do is they're often ideal and they're like a target, not an expectation. And what you really want to be doing is just become more mindful of, am I getting more protein in my diet? Because actually we've found like a lot of our clients, when they start giving themselves more protein, it improves their eating habits as a whole. If you look at your nutrition, if you have a low protein breakfast, I would say that's the meal most people struggle with. A lot of breakfasts are high carb. They go high carb breakfast, they crash. What do you call it? The 11ers. And it's quite natural. Same can often happen again afternoon after lunch. If you were to pair the higher carbs, so you're not cutting carbs out, you might lower the carbs slightly because you're going to get more calories from protein in. pair it with protein, you'll find your blood sugar levels are a lot more stable. You're not going to get that peak and then that dip where you then start crashing and thinking, shit, I need to go for a high sugar based food because that's going to give me that peak again. Okay, that will make a huge difference to your overall eating habits.
Yeah, and I always say, because a lot from what I more so from coaching with females, and again I can relate to this, not now, but from my previous, like how who previous Ellie was, is like we have this fear to bulk out our meals and make them more like calorie dense. So like, you know, kind of like when we look at a meal, it's like I tend to say women don't want to have their breakfast like I don't know, above like 250 to 300 calories. So however, if you were to have like 300 to 400 calorie breakfast, including that protein in, you're probably most likely going to find that that's going to fulfill you. Your energy levels are going to be sustained, and you're probably going to snack less, which means overall it may help you consume less calories because there's less snacking. So it's definitely, you know, becoming aware. Don't be afraid by making your meals more fulfilling, because over the course of the day, this might be a better approach for you.
100%. I think society is something that we don't talk a lot about when it comes to nutrition, but it is so important. And it's looking at when you're having those meals, how satisfied are you really going to feel after it? If you imagine like you have a pint of fruit juice versus a pint of full fat milk, you'll feel a lot fuller having the milk versus the fruit juice. They've got the exact same volume, but this is going to make you feel fuller because you don't get a full switch of carbs. So if you're someone who is opting for your typical high carb breakfast, which a lot of people do, like your toasts, like your fruit, like your porridge, things like that, but you're not pairing it with a source of protein, the likelihood of you actually feeling properly satisfied is much slimmer, unless you are putting some healthy fats with it, or ideally putting protein with it. I think that's something to really take a step out and look at your meals, because a lot of the time people will target the snacks as being the issue. But the reason why we're snacking is because the meals aren't satisfying us enough anyway. Like, you know, if you have a good satisfying breakfast, you may not need to snack between breakfast and lunch. We're not saying you can't have a piece of fruit. We're not saying you can't have a snack, but you just might find that you're not constantly thinking, right, how long till I got that next snack? Oh my God, is it only like an hour after I've eaten?
Yeah, and I think like to kind of just like talk about how we would typically coach. Say if you've got someone who's new, who's never tracked and looked at their macros or the calories before. So for our clients who would start with us, they fill on like an onboarding form, and we would kind of work out their ideal calorie target. I feel like you give me really strange looks today.
Oh, really?
So then we'd so we look at their body weight. So for example, someone who weighs 70 kilos, you put into this calculator, they would say like an ideal target would be 140 grams of protein based on their body weight. So someone who's never tracked before, who's never really used to look at their protein, that's going to be like a huge jump for them to get to 140 grams of protein. And you most likely that's going to cause a form of overwhelm, stress. They're not going to enjoy what they're doing because they're panicking. They're not going to probably reach their target. They're going to feel like as if they're, I don't know, like failing at this target. So for us, we want to continue building this feel-good factor. So what we would then be suggesting, what we say to our clients is, okay, let's log a typical week of your typical food habits. Don't change anything. Let us have a look. Ryan would then typically get on the call with them because he's our nutrition master. You're a nutrition master? Is that what we call you?
Well, certified nutrition coach, but
nutrition expert.
we do nutrition master class.
You're no master.
So once somebody's done once somebody's joined us, they get a nutrition master class with me where we break their eating habits down.
So I would say so we would look at their typical eating habits, and then we'll maybe just say, for example, they're hitting 50 grams, because it's typical when someone starts with us, their protein's low. That's just, that is the norm. And we would literally go from there, set the first target. If they are having 50, okay, let's go to 20 grams. And the first thing that we most likely do is, when we look at their food, it's going to be, can we increase the protein, the portion sizes? A lot of time I always see people when they're having eggs, they're having one egg. For me, typically, I'm having 3 eggs at least for a serving. Yeah. That's just, so it's looking at your serving sizes is an easy way to get more protein in.
Yeah, and I think that's where you want to almost think and break down each meal and think every time I'm having a meal, where am I getting a source of protein from? If you're doing that, typically, if you're not hitting the 140 for the example that Ellie used, if you're not hitting that, it doesn't matter. You're probably going to be getting enough protein. The only time you ever really need to break it down more so would be if you're somebody trying to lose weight and you're constantly hungry, or you're finding your training recovery is poor, or probably those are the two main reasons I would say that we would be saying you really need to try and push that protein up first. That being said, I do feel like we're always being marketed to in this world, and supplements is obviously, like Ellie's touched on, is huge. And I think protein supplements it's almost the thing that I would say 90% of our clients ask us to, like, day one, like, am I going to have to take a protein shake? And reality is, like, most of us, we would prefer nobody needs to take a protein shake. It should be something that is an option there as a backup. I would say a lot of our clients may have one when they're traveling in particular because it just helps bump your protein up. But realistically, like Ellie said, the preference is always to try and get it from natural food sources where possible. And it's not saying that a shake isn't good for you or there's anything wrong with it, but it's not going to be the same sort of satiety. Digestion starts in the mouth, so we're chewing our food when we're properly having proper protein sources, which then sends a message down to the stomach, so it then helps us link to feeling fuller. So there's a lot more benefits to having protein from food, but at the same time opting for convenience, sometimes like a shake, like a bar, yogurt.
Yeah, and I think as well, like you've mentioned, like, you know, there's like it's over marketed, you know, shops, supermarkets, brands often put products as high protein because it will catch your eye. But it's really important to just become aware of actually the product, and this is where like education can help. And it's just, you know, look at the nutritional information and have a look, you know, is the protein actually high, or is there actually more fats than protein in that product? And that is not going to be a high protein product. And we often see that a lot with things like bars,
even bread,
peanut butter. There's some nuts. I remember nut butters, I think one of the supermarkets brought out, and it was like the protein peanut butter, and actually it had hardly any protein. There was more fats in it than anything. Like cereals is another one.
As a guide, you could think almost like per 100 calories I'm getting, am I getting at least 10 grams of protein? If you're not, it's probably not going to be a high protein food group. It's just got protein in it and being marketed as high protein.
Yeah. And I think if you are listening to this and this is something that maybe you wanting to kind of understand your eating habits and improve things because you're thinking, you know, actually, maybe I do need to increase your protein, and you're wondering where do you start, is not everyone, like we've done on a podcast before, not everyone has to track on MyFitnessPal, apps like MyFitnessPal. However, it does help because it gives you kind of like the starting point of like where you currently are with like your numbers, if you're having numbers. And if you're not tracking, it's kind of just being aware of, like Ryan said, am I having protein in each meal? Could I add a source of protein, or even could I just add a snack? By you adding more protein into your diet, you're then already, you know, making that progressive step. It's just obviously if you are on a weight loss goal, your calories are still the number one thing that we want to be focusing on.
That's it. We would always put, like, you've got the vital, which is those calories, hydration, then the sort of really important stuff, which then brings onto that protein, nourishment, nutrient density, and then you've got the not so important carbs, fats, supplements. And when you've got that nailed, it becomes a lot easier, and it doesn't feel drastic. You don't feel like you're on a diet plan. You don't feel like you're constantly thinking about protein. You just make more mindful decisions where protein just forms a part of every snack or meal, regardless, because you know you feel better from it.
And like we and Rye, like we are probably like the worst chefs, cooks on this planet when it comes to cooking foods. We kind of like have the same things, but
although you do make a naughty scrambled eggs.
I'm pretty good at scrambled eggs.
Very good.
Yeah, I have to say that I am pretty good at scrambled eggs. But like to make things like more fun for you, like with like your poultry or your meat sources that you're having, is using things like, you know, spices, herbs, tomato-based sauces. These are like little like tools that, or tips that you can like make your meals have more variety but are tasty, so you're not just having bland food. Because like we've always said, your enjoyment is so key, because when you enjoy something, you're going to be more consistent.
That's it. I think that was pretty much all we wanted to cover on it, wasn't it, really? I think the most important message for us is it has to be done with a healthy approach. We don't want anybody watching these and thinking, right, they're harping about protein, I need to go and drastically change things. And that's never what these are about. It's just about how us giving you a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of our experience from it, because we have fell for the diets in the past where you know it's constantly chicken, rice and broccoli, or you know protein shakes, and it doesn't need to be like that. It's just being slightly more mindful, and we use the 3 steps to everything, and then we encourage everyone who's around us to track, assess and adapt. And when we talk tracking, it's like Ellie said, it doesn't have to be using MyFitnessPal. It could be as simple as just being mindfully tracking, like, right, where's my protein on there, eyeballing protein sources in that meal. That's a good bonus. Tick that box.
And I think so, just to add as well, you know how you mentioned about the 11s, so like, you know, after your meal 1, but then there's also like that mid-afternoon, that when most people, so I find like mid-morning and mid-afternoon is when most people, or maybe in the evening as well, most people talk about like their cravings and the energy slump. And then one thing, or the one tip that we always say is have a look at your meal before that slump. And what was it? What did it contain of? And how much protein was there? Because if you're just having like a carb-based meal, especially something like, even if it was just like fruit, something not fulfilling, you know, something that's like, you know, quick and easy to digest, it's not going to fill you up as long. And you probably are then going to have that continual craving for like sugars and things like that. And that's where by adding some form of protein into your meal, it helps slow the absorption of the carbs into your bloodstream. So then you do essentially feel fuller for longer. So that's why, you know, it's really important to get that protein in to avoid the energy slump. Yes,
so we hope you found that helpful. And in a short answer to, is protein important? Yes, it's important, but we don't want it to become a stressor, as with anything in our nutrition.
Yeah.
And if you found this helpful, you enjoyed our content and our terrible jokes, please do make sure you hit subscribe, like, share this video. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out. Thanks so much. See ya.